Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Touch on Sport podcast. As always, I am your host, Buster Tutcher. Today's episode of the podcast, we are going to be doing a breakdown of Week 4's slate of NFL games in the 2023 season. It's a busy week of games again. It's already Week 4. This season is absolutely flying by. Let's get right into this week's slate of games and our breakdown of what's to come this week. So Week 4 kicks off tonight with an NFC North divisional matchup of the Detroit Lions going to Green Bay. And what a game it's shaping up to be. We've got two teams coming off wins. We had Green Bay last week. They stifled that Atlanta Falcons rushing attack, forced them to throw and took advantage of it, coming away with the victory over the Falcons. Whereas Green Bay, they came back in that fourth quarter. They were down 17-0, 18 points, fourth quarter comeback, got themselves the win. It's looking like an interesting game, this one. I'm excited to see how both teams take what they did last week and bring it into tonight's game. I'm interested to see if Detroit can, similar to last week, stifle the rushing attack. If they can force the game onto Jordan Love's arm, then I think this is going to be a really interesting game for him to see how he goes. I mean, he'll obviously be hoping to start getting some more of his weapons back, but Romeo Doubs last week looked good. You know, he put up some numbers, made some really good catches, started having a little bit of a connection there, which is looking like it could be threatening. The question for Green Bay is always, well, for any team facing the Lions, is how will said team's defense cope against that passing attack and this offense that just seems to love putting up points. I think it's going to be a tight game tonight. I think there's going to be points scored. I think Green Bay's defense is talented. There's some underrated pieces in there. Be interesting to see how they go against the Lions. I think it's going to be a tight game. I do think Green Bay are going to win this one at home. Thursday night, cold weather of the night game. I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for the Lions offense. And I like this Green Bay team. I think Jordan Love, he's playing all right, doing some things. He's shown me some stuff. And I think Green Bay wins this one. It'll be a tight game. I'm interested to see how they got on tonight. Should be a great start to the Week 4 slate of games. Let's move on now to Sunday, where we have our first international game of the season in London, here in the great United Kingdom. We have got, of course, the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. For the Jags, it's a home game. They have two games in London this year, actually. This is the first of back-to-back London games for the Jags. Atlanta, of course, coming off that loss last week to the Lions. Jacksonville coming off a bit of a humbling, heavy 37-17 loss to the Houston Texans. It's going to be interesting, this game. I think the Jacksonville defense needs to take a step up. You know, Atlanta are going to try to get back to that running game. They were forced into passing it last week and it didn't work out for them. It'll be interesting how they get that running game back going. It's the Jacksonville team that need to step up. They need Trevor Lawrence. This Atlanta defense is only allowing 170 passing yards per game. They're not easy to pass the ball on, and Lawrence has struggled so far. But I think this is a good spot for them. I like the Jags in this game. I'm not sure it's going to be a blowout or anything. I think it'll be a tight game. I think both teams coming over to England. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on. But I think Trevor Lawrence can get this one done for his team. And I think there's a win here for the Jags. Later on Sunday, we'll go into our early slate of games. And we'll start with an NFC East matchup between the Commanders and the Eagles. Washington at Philadelphia. Last week, the Commanders, they got blown out by the Bills. They had 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions thrown by Sam Howell. Not what you need from your quarterback. Going into a game against the Eagles team that will look to take advantage with that defensive front of any shaky, uncertain quarterback play. Be interesting to see how they go. Philly, they haven't played their best football yet. They haven't. I think that would be by their own admission. On offense, they have not played their best football. They've gotten the running game going. Passing attack's not quite fully there yet, not quite fully clicked. But they are 3-0. That's a scary proposition for the rest of the NFC East, the NFC, and the NFL as a whole. once this team gets going, if they can just keep grinding out wins until they find their rhythm, get themselves going, this is a serious team, and we know they have that caliber of being able to go far in the playoffs anyway. For this game, I do think that defensive front, Jalen Carter, having a brilliant rookie season. I think that defensive front is going to be too much for this Washington O-line, and I think they're going to get after them. I don't think this is going to be the get going on offense game for the Eagles. I think they are going to have to pass it more because I do like the Washington D-line. I think they're going to look to have a bounce-back game in this divisional matchup. And I like them being able to contain that rushing attack a bit. But I think the Eagles will have enough, and defensively they'll be able to smother what Sam Howell and the Commanders' offense can do. So I like Philly getting a comfortable win here, really. Let's move on. We'll go on now to the Denver Broncos visiting the Chicago Bears. Well, both these teams could have had better weeks last week, shall we say. The Broncos, of course, getting blown out 70-20 by the Dolphins. Crazy. The Bears, they got blown out kind of themselves. 41-10, they lost to Kansas City. Tension in that game wasn't even entirely on the football after most of the first half. It's all about the bounce back. How can these teams respond to heavy defeats last week? And I think bounce backs, if you're looking to bounce back, it depends on your coaching staff. And if I look at these two coaching staffs, well, I like Sean Payton a lot better than Eberflus, sorry. I think it's a coaching mismatch. I know that the Broncos have been struggling, haven't been playing great, but coming into this game, both teams coming off bad performances. I think Denver can get their first win of the season here. But I think it's going to be a scrappy game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a bit of a tricky watch, but we'll see how it goes. Next up, Ravens at Browns. Baltimore going to Cleveland. Baltimore coming off the overtime loss to the Colts. Cleveland with their swarming, immense defense that has been smothering offenses and has hardly letting up any yards at all whatsoever. Of course, they beat the Titans last week fairly convincingly, only giving them 3 points. Baltimore got some injuries. I think they need a big game from Lamar Jackson here to get anything going against this Cleveland defense. And Lamar is the kind of quarterback who can have that big game. Will it be enough? Because the Browns, they're starting to look okay on offense. Deshaun Watson is, he's playing solid. The occasional splash play here and there with the nice plays. And if their defense keeps playing the way it can and has been against what is, let's be honest, a banged up Baltimore offense in itself, then solid will probably be enough in this game. In the long run, I think they are going to need more from Watson. But for this game, I think it will be enough, and I think the Browns win here over the Ravens at home. Our next game we're going to talk about, we have got the Pittsburgh Steelers going to the Houston Texans. Two teams coming off wins, getting a win in last week, both these teams. I mean, the Steelers, it was all about their defense. Their defense, turnovers, defensive scores. That might just be how it's going to be at the minute for Pittsburgh. I mean, their offense isn't firing how many people thought it would. And for the Texans, well, we knew this year was going to be ups and downs and learning and getting experience for CJ Stroud, but so far he's looking good. He's playing well. He's moving the ball. He's making plays. He's not really turning it over. This is a different test. This Pittsburgh defense is solid and strong and will get after him. TJ Watt is going to be coming for him all game, trying to put pressure on him, put pressure on the rookie quarterback, see if he can force a mistake. Houston are going to need their defense to play well because Pittsburgh hasn't got it going on offense. So they can keep themselves in this game, but if if the Texans have one of their down weeks on defense, they've been a bit up and down, then this might get away from them. So for me, in this game, it's the Steelers. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Just see how the quarterbacks go. I want to see how CJ Stroud goes against that pressure, against this high-quality Pittsburgh defense. I think it'll be interesting to watch. Vikings at Panthers is our next game, and two teams again coming off losses here. Vikings lost late to the Chargers, who just didn't want to put them away, despite Vikings not playing great. And the Panthers lost to Seattle. I mean, they put up some points, you know. Andy Dalton moved the ball quite nicely, scored some points. He's always moved the ball quite nicely. He's not that guy. And from what I've heard, it looks like they should be getting Bryce Young playing. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes against the Vikings defense that hasn't been what it was. It's not been great so far from the Vikings defense, really. But on the other side, the Carolina defense has struggled. This should be a game where the Vikings can move the ball like they have been doing, but also get some touchdowns in. They need to get more touchdowns. They've been getting field goals. They've been moving the ball, but just not scoring the points. And I think they'll be able to do that on Carolina. And I think probably Carolina's offense won't have enough to keep them in this game against the Vikings defense that should be able to hold them out enough. So for me, the Vikings win. Okay, nearly through the early kickoffs. We have next got the Bucks at the Saints. Tampa Bay, of course, lost to the Eagles on Monday Night Football. The Saints, they lost on the other end of that fourth quarter comeback from Green Bay. They were up 17-0 and lost Derek Carr. If Carr can play, I like the Saints in this game. If it's Jameis Winston, he can move the ball, but he's not the same quarterback as Derek Carr. He will move the ball. He will push the ball down the field. He'll try and make some throws, but there's mistakes in him. And I don't know if he can do enough for them against Tampa, who are going to be looking for a bounce-back game from Baker. He had one of his more down games. He's been playing all right so far, but it wasn't great on Monday. You know, they can put up some points on offense. Maybe the Philly D just is a bit better than what they've gone up against so far. But they've got talented playmakers. They can get something going on a Saints defense that is playing all right. So I think it's going to be a close game. For me, this game just depends on who's playing quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And if it's Derek Carr, I think they win. If it's not, I think it's a close game, and it'll be a really tight game if he's not playing, actually. Moving on, we have got the LA Rams going to the Indianapolis Colts. Rams, of course, they lost to the Bengals because Matthew Stafford got pressured. That O-line could not hold up. They lost the quick passing rhythm they were in previously, and he got pressured, and it showed. Colts, they beat the Ravens in overtime. Got a win. Played nice. Who's going to be their quarterback this week? Obviously, it was Gardner Minshew last week. I think in this game, is Gardner Minshew going to be enough again? I don't know. I think they'd rather have Anthony Richardson playing, get him that more experience, get him running the ball. Because I think the Rams are susceptible to the run more than the pass. But well, interesting to see. I think Stafford's going to have a bounce-back game. I think their O-line will be able to hold up a bit better. I think they're going to need to. I think they will be able to against the Colts. And I think Stafford gets them through this game and gets them to a win. It's an interesting game, but we'll see how it goes for this one. I think it's all about, again, who's playing at quarterback. Next, we have two teams coming off big wins. Miami at Buffalo. We all know about last week's Miami performance. 70-20 over Denver. Buffalo eased past Washington. This game for me comes down to a Miami offensive line that has been playing great I mean, Tua has hardly had any pressure so far. But how are they going to go against this Bills D-line that got going and got after Sam Howell last week? If they can put some pressure on Tua, force him into some mistakes, force him to be uncomfortable, how is that Miami offense going to look if there's facing a bit of pressure and struggling a bit? On the other side, the Bills have been starting to run the ball, not with Josh Allen, with running backs, taking some of the pressure off of Allen, giving him some support. If they can keep doing that, keep that balance in their offense, then I like Buffalo. If they go away from that, start putting it all on Josh Allen's arm and legs again, that's a different story. For this game, I think they will run the ball, and I think they will get after Tua a bit, and I think they'll put some pressure on him. So in this game, I like Buffalo. I think this is going to be a great game to watch, and I'm really excited for it. A final game of the early slate then is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Bengals coming off their first win of the season last week over the Rams. Joe Burrow got through that game. They got Chase going. They got some offense going. Were able to finally put up some decent points. The Titans, of course, they got beat down by that Browns defense last week. Just couldn't get anything going offensively. Question for this game is, can Burrow keep that momentum going? Can his calf keep him going? Can they keep Chase going? Is Burrow going to continue to look any healthier, any better? That's literally the only question for Cincinnati. Their franchise goes as his calf goes right now. So, big game for Joe Burrow, big game for the Bengals. For Tennessee, how are they going to bounce back? I love this coaching staff. I always have. I'm not in love with the roster, but I know Mike Vrabel's going to get his team up and go in for this game. I just don't think the talent is there, and I think Joe Burrow, with some momentum now, the Bengals scrape through to another win and get to 2-2 for the season. Right then, let's move on to our late slate of games on Sunday, starting with the Vegas Raiders at the Chargers. Raiders, of course, lost to the Steelers, and now they have got Jimmy Garoppolo in concussion protocol, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes. If it's not him, is it Brian Hoyer is their backup QB? Not excited for seeing that offense with Brian Hoyer at quarterback, to be perfectly honest. The Chargers, they held on. They got through to a win over the Vikings. Their offense is looking great. The question's about coaching and defense. They have the talent on defense. Coaching just isn't getting them deliver how they need to perform. Against the Raiders, though, I think this is going to be a game where their D can get some stops, especially if Garoppolo isn't playing, which means their offense can just take over this game, finally give them somewhat, it probably won't be comfortable. I think it will still be close-ish. It is a divisional game, but I think their offense can take control of this game, and I think the Chargers can win this one. Be interesting to see who is quarterback for the Raiders, how they look, if it is Brian Hoyer, and it'll be interesting to see if the Chargers defense can actually get some stops and let their offense just take over. Next up, it's the Patriots at the Cowboys. New England coming off that low-scoring game there. They beat the Jets. The Cowboys coming off the shock loss to the Arizona Cardinals. It's for the Patriots all about their defense. We know their offense is struggling a little bit. Can their defense keep them in this game? By the looks of it, they're good against the run, and the Cowboys want to run. The question will be when they start throwing the ball on them, can they get them shut them down? I think they can keep themselves in this game defensively. It's the other side of the ball. Yes, Dallas have lost Trayvon Diggs. Huge loss from their defensive secondary. But the Pats' offense is that limited that I'm still not sure they can get enough going on offense to keep themselves in this game. I know that they're going to try and run the ball. They're going to try to take Micah Parsons out of the game. And Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick. He'll be able to scheme that up. He'll be able to get them some momentum going. But I think Dallas has too much talent for this New England team. And I think because of the amount of talent and because of the depth and the just all-round roster, Dallas wins this game. But I think it will be close, and I think Bill Belichick will keep his team in it. I just don't think they have the talent on offense to get a win at Dallas. Next up, Arizona, coming off that shock win over the Cowboys. What do they get? Another tough game against an absolutely stacked roster. This week, they're going to their divisional rivals, the 49ers, who of course beat the Giants on Monday Night Football. Can Arizona take some momentum from that win into this game? If they can, you know what? They're playing hard for their new coach, Jonathan Gannon. Josh Dobbs is playing solid. He's playing hard. They're running the ball. They are deprived of a bit of talent. It is what it is. They're playing hard. They're here for their coach. They're giving it their best against the 49ers team that hasn't really played its best since week 1. How's that extra rest going to help them? I mean, they're dealing with a couple of knocks and niggles here, but so is everyone. So it'll be interesting to see. Are they going to need one of their stars to get them out of another tight game? For me, I don't think Arizona can repeat the trick 2 weeks in a row. I think the Niners get the win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because it's a divisional game. You'd never get a blowout in a divisional game. I think it's going to be close. I think in the end, the Niners will just have the star power to just get that comfortable push over the line late on. I don't think they'll blow them out. I think it'll be similar to what we've seen the last couple of weeks from the Niners. Close until like the third, fourth quarter, and then they just sneak it out late because they've got the talent and the depth. And I think that'll be too much. Okay, let's move on to Sunday Night Football, where we have got the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Jets. And this would have been such a good game. We were so excited. We were going to Mahomes against Rodgers, and we got the injury. And it's Zach Wilson, who has not been playing great. And the Chiefs have been playing great on defense. And I'm worried for Zach Wilson in this game because they clearly don't want to run the ball. They want to put it on his arm. The Jets need to give Bryce Hall the ball. They need to let him run and run and run more than 4 times in a game. Because just putting it all on Zach Wilson's arm clearly is not getting them the results that they need. So run the ball. Give him some help. Give him some support. You've got the defense. The defense has the talent against a Chiefs offense that hasn't been playing great. They started to move the ball around a bit last week against the Bears, but I don't think they're still fully clicking on offense. And I think against a Jets defense that can play great, then there's an opportunity here for the Jets if they can run the ball. But I just see it being another night of struggle, trying to rely on Zach Wilson's arm. And because of that, I think the Chiefs get a comfy win in New York. Unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately. I think it's good for them. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a not super close game because I just don't see the Jets putting up any points. This could have been a really great game against 2 teams pushing each other, challenging each other. I think the Chiefs make this comfortable. I really do think that they can get quite a comfortable result here against the Jets. Let's move on to Monday Night Football now, and where we have got the Seattle Seahawks going to the New York Giants. Well, this game, Seahawks coming off a game where they beat the Carolina Panthers. Giants, they lost to the Niners on Thursday Night Football. Seattle have been scoring points fairly well. Can they keep that going? It'll be interesting to see. The Giants coming off extra rest. Will that help them get some of their players back? They're going to need it. We'll have a look more at this game on Monday when we have a breakdown of the rest of the weekend's action. But for me, going in ahead, I think that Seattle will win this game because I just think the Giants, I think they'll hopefully get some players back. They're interesting to see. But I think they've been struggling. I think they're going to continue to struggle, to be perfectly honest. Okay, that is the entire slate broken down for week 4. I'm really looking forward to this weekend's action. I can't wait to watch as much of it as possible and watch all the games. It's going to be a great weekend again. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on the games that come, on my picks, what you thought. Make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time in the next episode of the Touch on Sport podcast. Thank you very much for watching.